AfriForum stel vandag 'n omvattende verslag bekend wat die werklikheid van die patetiese vervolgingskoers van plaasaanvalle en plaasmoorde ontbloot. Die verslag het die arrestasie en vervolgingskoers van alle plaasaanvalle en plaasmoordinsidente vanaf 2019 tot 2022 deur die Suid-Afrikaanse Polisiediens wat by die Suid-Afrikaanse Polisiediens aangemeld is, ontleed. Ek is Monique Taute, hoof van veldtogte en navorsing by AfriForum. Saam met my op die paneel vandag het ek vir Johan Orkee, een van ons top navorsers en ook die skrywer van die verslag wat ons vandag bekendstel met die titel Rural Injustice, the Low Prosecution Rate for Farm Attacks and Murders. As ook Jacques Broodryk, ons kommunikasiebestuurder by Veiligheid. Die res van die mediakonferensie gaan in ons tweede taal Engels plaasvind om ons internasionale gehoor en Engelse media te akkommodeer. Ek gee dan nou oor aan Johan Orkee wat vir ons meer inligting gaan gee oor die verslag.
Eerstens wil ek net sê baie dankie dat julle die tyd en moeite gemaak het om vandag op te daag. En vir die van julle wat by die huis kyk, ons waardeer dit. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for attending today, and for those viewing at home, thank you for your time. I would also like this opportunity to extend our condolences to all the victims affected by farm attacks and violent crime as well. This report evaluates the convictions regarding farm attacks and farm murders. So in order to gain a better understanding of whether strategies like the National Rural Safety Act of the South African Police Service is effectively implemented, we cannot simply look at the frequency of farm attacks, we also have to look at arrest and conviction incidences. So in order to do this report, we requested information from the South African Police Service. The information was granted regarding, in terms of a PIA request, for the 2019 to 2022 calendar years. Thus, the following report is based on official SAPS crime statistics. Now, this report has been divided into two parts. We will first look at arrest and conviction rates regarding murder incidences, and then we will look at arrest and conviction rates regarding attacks, those that exclude murders. So in terms of farm murders, in the 4 years from 2019 to 2022, the South African Police Service recorded 159 farm murder incidents, of only which 24 resulted in convictions. Looking of the 75 incidences that resulted in arrest, 32% resulted in convictions, and if we look at all the 153 murder incidents, 60% resulted in a guilty verdict. Now, regarding a provincial breakdown of arrest following farm murder incidences, Mpumalanga and Gauteng fared the worst. In Mpumalanga, arrests were made in only 20% of cases, and in Gauteng, only in 11% of cases. Now, in the 4 years from 2019 to 2022, not a single farm murder incident, according to the SAPS data, was recorded in Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northwest, and the Northern case in terms of conviction of any suspects. Then, if we look at the farm attacks, there's these incidents that exclude murder. From 2019 to 2022, the SAPS recorded 1,249 farm attacks. Arrests were made in only 22% of these attacks, or 269 incidences. Of the 269 incidences that resulted in arrest, 16% resulted in convictions. And if we look at all the farm attacks, in terms of convictions, only 3% of all farm attacks resulted in convictions. Now, Limpopo, Mpumalanga and Gauteng had the lowest arrest levels for farm attacks, where arrests were reported in only 20, 14 and 9% of cases respectively. In the Northern Cape and Mpumalanga, no convictions were made regarding attacks. So if we also look at the nationalities of the suspects that were arrested concerning murder incidences, the vast majority of suspects were South Africans with a percentage point of 86%, and nationalities of other arrested suspects were that of Lesotho 8%, Zimbabweans 4%, and Mozambicans and individuals of unknown nationality each accounted for 1%. In terms of attacks only, this is now incidents that exclude murders. The vast majority were also South Africans, 78%. The next nationality was followed by Zimbabweans with 13%, and Mozambicans with 5%, and Lesothos with 2%. So overall, if we combine all the murder incidences and all the attack incidences, we're looking at a conviction rate of only 5% for the entire period under review. Now, in conclusion, like other victims of crime, farmers and people living on small holdings deserve justice and speedy justice. Unfortunately, this report highlights some of the shortcomings within the criminal justice system, and the low conviction rates and slow pace of proceedings affects communities in this sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johan. I'll now give over to Jock.
Good morning. South African farmers are currently fighting battles on various fronts. The first being this horrendous phenomenon known as farm attacks, characterized by its extreme brutality, torture, rape, murder. And in many of these cases, nothing even gets stolen from these victims. The second front farmers are fighting on is dealing with an openly hostile South African government. We have a Minister of Police who regularly blames farmers for the attacks that occur against them, often based on the false claim that it's because they employ illegal foreigners, which this report has now debunked. Then we sit with the South African President, who in front of the United Nations and in front of the world's media openly denied that farm attacks were taking place in this country. A president who had the audacity to openly lie to the international media about what was taking place in this country. Thirdly, farmers have to contend with political leaders singing songs and chants like "kill the Boer, kill the farmer," while being called conspiracy theorists by farm attack denialists when they get upset about this. Ironically, a few weeks after the last time the EFF sung this song in their numbers at their birthday celebrations, Amanda Pat and her husband were attacked on their farm outside Pietermaritzburg. They were severely assaulted while their attackers chanted, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." This was before they proceeded to stab Amanda with a spear. So I'm guessing someone forgot to tell those attackers that "kill the Boer, kill the farmer" is just a metaphor. And now, the fourth front that farmers will have to be fighting on, as this report has now identified, is the battle for justice in the face of a crumbling criminal justice system. And what's become very clear is one of the main reasons for the low conviction rates when it comes to farm attacks and farm murders is the complete lack of will to thoroughly investigate these crimes. That is why AfriForum will be looking at ways to expand our own capabilities to perform private investigations regarding farm attacks, to ensure that these attacks are properly investigated by the book and that they lead to prosecutions. We will also continue with our Safeguard a Farm campaign, where we train farmers in various safety aspects such as firearm handling, basic first aid, and how to set up effective radio communications networks. We will also continue to expand our safety networks, of which we currently have 168 countrywide, comprising roughly 11,000 trained volunteers. We will continue to train more community members and more volunteers to ensure the communities can take their safety into their own hands. While the African National Congress government turns a blind eye to crime because it's focused on lining its own pockets, And while political opportunists like the economic freedom fighters try to sow divide, AfriForum will continue to build communities from ground level upwards. Thank you.
Baie dankie, Jacques. En ook 'n groot dankie aan AfriForum se 313.000 lede wat ons in staat stel om wêreldklas navorsing te publiseer en ook ons geveg teen plaasmoorde voort te sit. Ek maak nou die vloer oop vir vrae van die media. Enige vrae?
Ekskuus, ons het 'n vraag gister ontvang van die media. Ek het nou nie al die vrae byna nie, maar ek sal nou vir julle kry. Maar een van dit was spesifiek wat hulle wou weet is hoekom AfriForum die fokus plaas op plaasmoorde in die besonder en nie na die breër staatssituasie.
Thanks. I'm going to respond to that question in English as well, for we know we have a lot of international interest in the matter, so just to include all our viewers. I think that's a very loaded question to start off with. AfriForum does not simply focus on farm attacks. We focus on a lot of other crimes and crime in general, corruption. We have a lot of civilian safety structures who are not based in farm areas. We've also done a lot of work on gender-based violence and various other crimes. So I think it's an ill-informed question. That being said, farm attacks is a very big priority for us. Farming is part of AfriForum's focus points. Farm attacks are a unique crime that we feel needs to be categorized as a unique crime, and there are various reasons for that. So we will continue to place the focus on farm attacks, especially seeing as the South African government doesn't even want to admit that it's taking place.
Thank you. The next question we received was, what does AfriForum's findings regarding farm murders and attacks and the rate of prosecution say about the state of our judicial system? And do you think that the poor rate of prosecution may also reflect the wider problem in the system?
Can I answer that question? Johan, you're welcome to add to it.
Like I said, the purpose of this report is to see whether the National Rural Safety Act is effectively implemented, and we can't look at frequency of attacks alone as an indicator. We have to look, as the document says, National Rural Safety Act rightly says, that we also need to look at the convictions and the arrest rates to see if this plan is effectively implemented. AfriForum is well aware also of the unsung heroes within the South African Police Service and the National Prosecuting Authority that work, but as a whole, this report highlights serious shortcomings in the criminal justice system due to the low conviction rates.
And then just the last question we asked was, and I think you actually mentioned it in both of your statements, but he said, we asked, what are the top 3 causes of the poor rate of prosecution regarding farm murders and attacks?
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the question?
What did you say are the top 3 causes for the poor rate of prosecution?
Well, we're now moving into the terrain of speculations, so I can't give a definitive answer because the region didn't focus on that. It could be that it could be a number of reasons. It could be poor investigation work. It could be poor relations between the South African Police Service and the National Prosecuting Authority. It could be the complexity of the cases. And in criminal cases, we should also remember that if a person is convicted, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. So I can't speculate on that at the moment, but it could be for a variety of reasons.
I would like to add to that answer, please, not from the report side, but from practical experience with our civilian safety structures on the ground, our neighbour and farm watches. The investigation process is definitely one of the big elements. I can't say whether it's the biggest or what the other top 2 are, but it's definitely one of the biggest, because even though the arrest rate is very low for farm attacks and farm murders, in many cases these arrests are performed by civilian safety structures, by farm watchers or by neighborhood watchers, and then those criminals are handed over to the police. So it's not even the SAPS performing the arrest in the first place, it's civilians, and they're handed over to the SAPS, and then there is no track kept of the evidence. The chain of evidence is often contaminated. Guys just simply disappear from police custody or from police vans, or they get free bail and they're never seen in court again. So those are some of the major challenges. So the arrests are being performed, but definitely when it comes to the process being followed from there on, which is, I think you referred to the criminal justice system's decline, that's definitely one of the biggest problems, and there are various elements involved.
Sorry for the interruption. interruption, but there's another question on Facebook as well. The Janine Botha asks, what is the active contingency plan that AfriForum has in this regard?
I think I just discussed that entire plan. I'm not going to repeat my answer. Thank you.
Enige verdere vrae? Dit is dan nou die einde van ons mediakonferensie. Vir meer inligting besoek www.stopdiemoorde.co.za of gesels saam op sosiale media.